Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Keanu Young. I'm the Assistant Coordinator of the Public Access Room. And today I'll be talking about the legislative calendar and the deadlines. So thank you for joining me today. Just a reminder about what we do at the Public Access Room. We are part of the Legislative Reference Bureau, which is a nonpartisan service agency at the Capitol. Please visit us in room 401. We produce lots of informational material. And our primary responsibility is to help enhance the public's ability to participate in the legislative process. So we have public computers. We can help people log into their accounts and help them with their testimony, or at least get their testimony into the committees. We have workspace where people can come in and use our office as like a home base for the advocacy efforts. We do workshops and tutorials like this one. And we just help the public engage in the legislative process. So we have a part-time legislature. Most of the calendar year is in this left side of the pie chart. Things move very quickly when session starts, and this year it is January 21st. And on the right side is those colored wedges are just dates between deadlines. And we put that in there to show everybody how quickly things move once we get in the session. And so we'll explain the deadlines. Just know that we are available through session. There's a lot of information. This may be difficult for you to understand all the deadlines. We'll try to make it easy, but we will be available via phone or email or at our office, and we can always explain to you what the deadlines mean. So we're always available and we can assist you throughout session. We'll provide this workshop assuming that you already understand the legislative process. But if you do not, you can circle back to our website. This is the Public Access Room's website, and on the Learn page, we do explain what that process is. We also have a new Advocates Guide, and that first part of the Advocates Guide talks about the legislative process. But we'll just break down what the process is real quick. These are all the things that have to happen for a bill to become law. Bills have to be introduced by legislators in the first week of session. They have to pass every committee that they're referred to in the House and the Senate. They have to pass at least 3 votes or readings. They call them readings because when they're dealing with bills in the House and Senate chambers, they read the bills by title, but they're actually floor votes. So they have to pass at least 3 votes in the House and 3 votes in the Senate. The House and Senate have to agree on the exact wording before a bill gets out of the legislature. Then the bill has to be either signed into law um, or not vetoed by the governor. Or if the bill is vetoed, then the legislature would have to call themselves back in a special session and override the governor's veto by a 2/3 vote of each chamber. And it has to do all these things by the deadlines that are listed in the calendar, which we'll explain today. This is why deadlines are very important and understanding the deadlines are important. So over 90% of the bills, about 90% of the bills die because they miss a deadline. The legislative calendar, which we'll talk about today, um, the calendar is created by House and Senate leadership. They'll rule our lives during session. We at the Public Access Room take the internal deadlines um, from the House and Senate internal calendars and recreate this annotated, color-coded version to make it easier for people to see what those deadlines are. We also have descriptions on the back that try to explain what the deadlines mean, but we'll talk about the deadlines in this presentation. Now, how to find the calendars? You can find them on the legislature's website, and you just go to the events tab and click on the events tab and use the drop down menu to go to legislative calendar. You can find the calendar there or on our website, the public access room's website, and go to the current legislature page. And on the left side, under calendars and deadlines, you'll see our calendar linked there. Okay. So the legislature uses the calendar to plan out all of their business, and we're keeping track of the calendar to follow all that business during the legislative session. The calendar lists all the deadlines, and there's many of them. It will list all the session days, and session days are days that the House and Senate are actually meeting in their legislative chambers, conducting business. There's 60 session days, so they're meeting 60 days in chambers. And for each session day, there will be an order of the day, which is the business agenda for that particular session day. And you can see them in the calendars because there will be a box on that calendar dates. You can also see the recess days, which are days that the House and Senate are not meeting in their chambers. And recess days are usually built around the deadlines. And you can also see the holidays. Opening day is January 21st, and it's a little bit festive. Usually, this is a great time to meet with legislators. Usually, a lot of them have open offices. This is a great time to connect with legislators, meet with chairs of committees, especially the ones that you'll be dealing with. Like I said, it's a festive day, and then the legislature gets to work. Okay, now we're going to talk about deadlines. Whenever we're talking about deadlines on the calendar, we're talking about the last day. Specific actions must be taken for a bill to continue to move forward in the legislative process. Now, bills can and do move forward before deadlines, but the deadline is the last day that an action can be taken. Now, deadlines, you can see deadlines on the legislative calendar. They're listed. We'll talk about them. But there are also deadlines within specific days that House and Senate leadership will set. For example, they may say during the bill introduction deadline, all bills have to be filed for introduction by 6 p.m. or all committee reports must be filed with the chief clerk's office by 9 p.m. or 11 p.m. On filing deadlines, and we'll talk about those. If a bill misses any of these deadlines, they may die. And I say may die because there's some things that the legislature can do to get around those deadlines. We won't talk about that. Most of them will die when it misses a deadline. And most of the deadlines on the calendar are filing deadlines. So filing deadlines are the last day for legislative committees to file the bill's committee report and any amended bill drafts with the chief clerk's office. So the House chief clerk's office for House committees and the Senate chief clerk's office for Senate committees. In order for these legislative committees to meet filing deadlines, they have to have hearings on bills, pass the bill out in some form, and file the committee report and any amended draft of a bill, so an HD or an SD, with the clerk's office by the time set by House and Senate leadership. After the clerk's offices receive these documents or the bill jackets, they process them and prepare them for further action by putting the committee reports and the bill drafts on the order of the day for action by the chambers. Okay, now getting into the deadlines. Opening day is Wednesday, January 21st. And the first deadline that comes on the calendar is the bill introduction cutoff on January 28th. So this is the last day for legislators to introduce bills. In our state, only legislators can introduce bills. The governor will send his bill packages to the House Speaker and the Senate President, and those bills get introduced by request. There's a short window in the state of Hawaii for legislators to introduce bills. There's usually only about a week. This year is the back end of our 2-year legislative cycle, and in the second year, the House and Senate leadership allow legislators to pre-file bills, meaning that they can introduce bills before a session actually starts. So legislators will be allowed to introduce bills beginning tomorrow, which is January 14th. So you'll start to see bills populating on the website beginning tomorrow. So it's a 2-week period this year, but still short. It's just a 2-week window. Bills are introduced when the draft bill is signed and taken and filed with the House Chief Clerk's office or the Senate Chief Clerk's office. It'll begin giving a bill number and a prefix, an HB or an SB, and it will be prepared for action by the chamber by being put on the order of the day. If you look on the bill status pages, it'll just be listed as pre-filed until opening day. After first reading, a bill is referred to various committees by the chamber's leadership. Okay, now we're getting into our first filing deadlines. That is the triple referral filing deadline for the House, which is February 11th, and for the Senate, which is February 12th. So triple referral filing deadline is the deadline for that first of the 3 committees to report the bill out, meaning that, again, they'd have to have schedule a hearing, have the hearing, and file the committee report and any amended draft by that deadline. Some bills actually have more than 3 referrals. They may have 4 referrals, and for those 4 referrals, they would have actually had to get out of their first referral before this deadline. It's the deadline, but for most bills, they'll get a triple, mostly in the House. What it does is allow secondary committees to have enough time to work on the bill before they have their own deadlines. It mostly affects House bills. While Senate committees do, or Senate, while the Senate does issue triple referrals, it's not a whole lot. This is mostly a House thing. So mostly affects House bills. I mean, or bills that are going through the process in the House. What we're going to do right now is we're going to take a bill from 2023. It was House Bill 193. And we will walk this bill through the process just to show you how bills work or committees work with bills through the deadlines, or how bills move through the deadlines. The number of referrals a bill is given will trigger the deadlines that apply to it. So this bill was given a triple referral. Let's take a look at it a little bit more closely. It was introduced, it passed first reading, and referred to 3 committees, the EEP, CPC, and FIN. Now, how we look at it is we count the commas as like a then. So it got referred to EEP, then CPC, then finance. So 3 committees. And the triple referral filing deadline refers to just that first committee. We're not worried about the other 2 committees. The triple referral filing deadline only refers to that first committee. Now, again, it's a filing deadline. So in order to meet this deadline, that first committee would have had to have a hearing on it. They'd have to pass the bill out in some form and file the committee report. And if they amend the bill, any amended draft with the clerk's office by the deadline set by the House and Senate leadership. So going back to 2023, that triple referral filing deadline that year was February 8th. And so That EEP committee needed to get the bill out by February 8th. So they scheduled the bill for a hearing on January 31st. They voted to pass it out on the 31st, and they reported it out on February 6th. So this bill made the chipper for referral filing deadline. Whenever a committee reports the bill out, they file a committee report. This is the committee report, and they are making recommendations to the chamber. As you can see on the bottom, recommending that it pass second reading in the form attached, which is the HD1 version, and referring it to its next committee, which is the Committee on Consumer Protection and Commerce. And here you can see this is the HD1 version. So what's being filed is the committee report that you just saw and this HD1 version. So this is what's required to be filed by the deadline. When that's filed, this has been put on the order of the day, and here you can see the standing committee report. It's going to be SHCR 57 and HB 93 HD1. So this is what the House is dealing with on the floor. This is on the order of the day for the chamber to vote on, recommending passage on second reading and referring it to its next committee. And here you can see the action on the bill status page. It passed second reading and referring it to its next committee, which is the Committee on CPC. Now it's within its second committee referral, which is what we call, how would refer to it is the next to last committee. So now it's in its next to last committee, and the next deadline that would apply to it is the first lateral filing deadline. Again, it's a filing deadline. So this year, the first lateral filing deadline is February 19th. It's the deadline for the next to last committee to report it out. So they'd have to have a hearing on it, pass the bill out in some form. If they make amendments to it, they'd have to file not only the committee report, but the amended draft with the clerk's office by whatever deadline leadership sets for it. Again, applying to next to last committee referral. So that's the committee that um, the first lateral filing is dealing with, next to last committees. We're going back to 2023 to see if CPC met that deadline. They had a hearing on it on the 15th. They voted to pass it out. If we can remember, the deadline was the 16th. They had a hearing on it on the 15th. It was reported out on the 16th. Sometimes the website, how it updates is a little confusing. You can see that the date on the website is the 17th. That's just the day that that entry was reported, but they passed it out on the 16th. It got reported out on the 16th. So this again made the deadline. Um, if you look at the committee report, they made no changes to it. Um, so they just recommended that it be moved to its next committee. They made no changes to it, so it's still in HD1 form. Then we're getting to our next deadline, which is the first lateral filing. First lateral. It's not a filing deadline. Now, when you see first lateral, that just means that's the deadline for the chamber to move it to its last committee. And that's why the first lateral filing is right before it, because the committee needs to get it out, report it out, so the clerks can put it on the order of the day. So the committee, I mean, not the committee, so the chamber can move it to its last committee on the floor. So that's a floor action. The chamber moves it on the lateral. And that's the deadline this year is February 20th. So the lateral deadline means all bills referred to more than one committee must move to their final committee in the originating chamber by the end of this day. Again, we're dealing with first again. So first just means for bills in their originating chamber. Anytime you see first, you're dealing with bills in their originating chamber. And lateral is the sideways movement from one committee to another within each chamber, as opposed to forward. Forward would be like a crossover. It's moving forward, but bills move laterally from committee to committee within its own chamber. And the deadline does not apply to a bill that only has one committee referral because it's already in its last committee. We're going to take a look at the order of the day. They're just adopting the committee report because it's already went through second reading. So here you see, oh, go back. Here you see the chamber is just adopting the committee report and referring it to its last committee, the Committee on Finance. And here you can see the update on the bill status page. Report adopted, referring it to Finance. And then we get into um, the next item on the calendar, which is the mandatory 5-day recess. This is a constitutional mandate that the legislature recess between the 20th and 40th days of the legislative session. Um, this year it is February 26th to March 4th. That's when the mandatory recess happens. The House and Senate do not convene floor sessions during this time. Although legislative hearings do continue, it's still busy. It's still busy at the Capitol. The only thing that doesn't happen is floor session, and Finance and Ways and Means are typically very busy during this time. This does allow legislators who aren't in those busy committees to go back to their districts and update their constituents on what's happening at the legislature. And you can watch the Committee on Finance and the Committee on Ways and Means. You can watch their hearings. Their hearings are usually very busy because they're trying to schedule their bills so they can move them out before the first decking deadlines. Which brings us to our next deadline on the calendar, which is the first decking deadline. First decking deadline this year is March 6th. The decking deadline is the deadline for the bills to emerge from all their committees with their committee reports filed with the clerk's office. And it's a mandatory 48-hour, it gives a mandatory 48-hour review by the chamber's members before they're asked to vote on the bill, in this case, before third reading. It's a constitutional requirement that members have access to the version of the bill that they're voting on before third or final reading, at least 48 hours prior to the vote. The purpose of decking is to allow legislators to have enough time to review the bill before they're going to vote on it for third reading. It's a big vote, and this is the last time they have access to it before it moves forward. Legislators will usually caucus on the Monday before. The vote's usually on a Tuesday, so they'll caucus on Monday to figure out how they want to vote. Um, First decking is a filing deadline, and again, this will concern the last committee referral in the bill's chamber of origin. So let's go back to the 2023 bill. Um, and in that case, finance is the last committee, and the first decking deadline for finance was March 3rd. So finance scheduled the bill for hearing on the 27th of May. They voted to pass the bill unamended, and they reported the bill out on the 3rd, unamended. And here you can see the committee report that they filed in time. The deadline was the 3rd, and they voted to pass it out unamended on the 3rd. And here you can see on the order of the day, the standing committee report and the bill passing third reading and the update on the bill status page. After this point, it's moved past all of its deadlines in the House. So it moved past all of its deadlines. And the next deadline that would apply to it is the first crossover deadline. This year it is um, March 12th. So March 12th is the last day for bills to pass third reading, um, to cross over to the other chamber. If successful, House bills are sent to the Senate and Senate bills are sent to the House. By this point, a lot of the bills, I don't know exactly the number or percentage. I've had to take a look at that, but I'd say more than half of the bills are probably dead at this point. The crossover is agreed to by both chambers. It's a hard deadline because you can't really, um, fix bills that or bring back to life bills that are struggling at this point. Um, any bill that misses crossover is dead. Here's a here's a view, a picture view, because people like to look at things visually, and bills have already passed their first, the chamber of origin are crossing over to the opposite chamber to go through the process all over again. Um, our bill passed first crossover because it passed third reading in the opposite chamber, so we already made that deadline. The next deadline that would apply to our bill is the second triple referral filing deadline. So we're going to take a look at the referral our bill got in the Senate. Second triple referral filing deadline this year is March 19th. Again, it's a filing deadline. All bills referred to three or more committees must be reported out of that first committee on or before that deadline. This mainly affects Senate bills referred to the House committees because, again, this is mostly something that the House does in referring bills to three or more committees. It's a very small window for House committees that are dealing with triples because they have one less week, I think, than they would have at the very beginning of session. So we're going to take a look at our bill from 2023. Um, it passed first reading and got its referrals in the Senate. And when we look at it, although it went through similar committees in the Senate just gave it a double. They referred it to EET, then CPN and WAM meeting together. So it's a double referral. So we're just going to bypass the triple referral filing deadline altogether. That deadline doesn't apply to us because it's a double referral. So we're going to skip that deadline, and our next deadline will be the second lateral filing deadline because that will be the deadline for the next to last committee. So that's our deadline. So for this year, second lateral filing is March 27th. Second lateral filing is the deadline for second committees or next to last committees to have hearings on the bill and pass the bill out in some form and report it out. So file a committee report in any amended draft. It's like the first lateral filing, but now for bills in their non-originating chamber. And again, filing deadlines are the last day that next to last committees can have hearings on the bill and report it out. Now for bills in the non-originating chamber. So the deadline for our bill in 2023, the second lateral filing deadline at that time was March 23rd. So we're going to take a look at our bill. Our bill is scheduled for a hearing on March 21st. The committee voted to pass it out unamended, and it was reported out on the 23rd. So they had a hearing on it. They voted to pass it out on the 21st, and they reported it out on the deadline on March 23rd. Here you can see the committee report. It's standing committee report number 1317 and passing it unamended and referring it to its next committee, Consumer Protection and Commerce and Ways and Means. So then our next deadline is the second lateral filing. Sorry, we already did the second lateral filing. Our next deadline is second lateral. And as you remember from the first time, it's the deadline for the committee to move it to its next, the chamber to move it to its next committee. It's a floor action. So the chamber would have to accept the committee report and move it on the floor to its last committee. The second lateral deadline this year is March 30th. All bills referred to more than one committee must move to their final committee in the non-originating chamber. And again, it's a floor action when the chamber accepts the committee report, passes the bill on second reading, and sends it to its last referred committee in the non-originating chamber. The deadline for that bill in 2023 was March 24th. Here you can see that bill, HB 193 in the committee report, and it looked like they moved it on the 23rd. So on the 23rd, they adopted the committee report and passed it on second reading to its last referral, which is that joint committee on CPN and WAM. So it made the second lateral deadline, and then went to its final deadline, which is the second decking deadline, which is the deadline for its last referral in the non-originating chamber, which is the CPN/WAM meeting together. So that deadline, second decking deadline for this year is April 10th. And remember, it's a filing deadline. So second decking deadline for this year is April 10th. It's the deadline for bills that have been amended by the non-originating chamber to emerge from other committees. And with the committee, so they have to emerge from other committees with the committee report filed and any amended draft by the committee to be filed with the chief clerk's office in the non-originating chamber so that they can be available for review by their chamber's members before third reading. And it only applies to bills that have been amended by the non-originating chamber, which is the majority of bills. Again, it's a constitutional requirement, Article 3, Section 15 of the Constitution. And it allows the members enough time to review all those bills that they're going to be voting on for third reading prior to the vote. Okay, so going back to 2023, CPA and WAM, the Joint Committee did schedule the bill for public decision making because in the Senate, if it's already been heard, if one Senate committee already had a regular hearing on the bill, secondary committees can have public decision making where they accept testimony, written test, where they can just accept written testimony and have public decision making on it, which is what CPA and WAM did. And because it's a joint committee, they both have to take the same action in order for the bill to pass, which they did. CPN voted that they passed the bill out with amendments. WAM voted that they passed the bill out with amendments, and the amendments have to be exactly the same in order for the bill to make it. And here you can see they voted to pass the bill out in Standing Committee Report 1803, which they reported out, recommending that the bill pass third reading. You can see that there. And the second decking deadline at that time was April 6th. So they reported it out on the deadline. The bill made the second decking deadline. And here is that committee report, which is the SD1 version with the amendments made by CPN and WAM, um, making recommendations that the Senate vote to pass the bill out on third reading in the SD1 form. Because it's a new bill from the last time, the 48-hour notice requirements kick in, and there you see the actual scheduled date of the vote for third reading, which is April 11th. It's on the order of the day, the committee report number. There you can see the SD1 version. They voted on it. It passed third reading. And here you can see the status update on the bill status page. Um, and it just needed to cross over. So they needed to take that vote before the crossover date, which they did. And the bill made it. So then has to cross over. It had to cross over by back over by the second crossover deadline. So the crossover deadline this year is April 16th. That's the last day for bills that have been amended by the non-originating chamber to cross back over to the originating chamber, and the last day for the originating chamber to disagree with amendments for bills that the non-originating chamber has made. This sounds like a lot, but when we get to this point, and you guys if anybody gets confused, just call us. I've been here a long time, and it took me like 2 years, I think, or 3 years to finally understand the calendar. And now I really love the calendar. It's my favorite part of session. So please feel free to give us a call. Um, the second crossover is April 16th. Again, it's the deadline for bills to pass back over if they've been amended. Last day for amended bills to cross back over to the originating chamber. And the last day for the originating chamber to disagree with those amendments. Any amended bill that fails to cross back over by this date will die. And here we are in the bottom of our infographic. And after this, it would be the conference period where the House and Senate are working on agreements for bills that have a House draft and a Senate draft where there's disagreement, which is the majority of bills at this point that are still left. And here you can see for our bill was returned from the Senate to the House in the SD1 version, and the House disagreed with the Senate amendments, um, and they went in a conference for that bill. So final decking for fiscal bills, non-fiscal bills um, is um, I'm not sure if I'm looking at the date. So final decking for non-fiscal bills. This is the deadline for bills that do not have a Ways and Means or Finance referrals. This is the last day for those conference committees to work on those bills and get it out and for the conference committees to file the conference drafts and the conference committee reports with the clerk's office. The final decking ensures a mandatory 48-hour review by the chamber's members before they vote on it for a final reading. Bills stuck in conference after that point die. Um, okay, so this is. I think I have extra slides in here, so I'm just going to go through what final decking and for fiscal and final decking for non-fiscal bills mean. Final decking for fiscal bills are any bills that have a finance or ways and means referral. So even if a fiscal bill, I mean, even if a bill does not have any type of what you can see as a fiscal, um, any appropriation, or what you can see as some kind of fiscal relation, if it has been referred to finance or ways and means, then it's automatically a fiscal bill, and you're going to need a finance or ways and means to sign off on that. This is where all the money is sorted out. And again, the final decking ensures a mandatory 48-hour review for members of the chamber to view it before they vote on it. And again, that's the constitutional requirement. So it's a filing deadline. Bill stuck in conference after this deadline will die. So I think I got the conference parts mixed up. I didn't change the date. So look on the dates in the calendar for um the fiscal and non-fiscal deadlines. I don't think I changed those dates. Or maybe I did. I'm sorry, I don't have the calendar in front of me.
Yeah, those
Adjournment site.
the dates are right, Keanu. The 29th for non-fiscal dates bills and the May 1st for fiscal bills is
Okay,
correct.
I'm sorry. Okay, that's good to know because I was looking at it and it looked wrong to me. Okay, great. Thanks, Andy. Adjournment sine die is May 8th. It's the last day of the 2026 regular session. By this point, final readings of all bills have to take place and adoption of all resolutions have to take place. Sine die is the Latin word for without a day and indicates the suspension of the business of the legislature. After session ends, the legislature certifies agreed upon bills and transmits them or enrolls them to the governor. It's just a different terminology. People ask us what all that terminology all the time. Enrolls is the term that the Senate uses when the Senate Chief Clerk's office sends their bills to the governor. Transmits is a word that the House uses when the House Chief Clerk's office sends their bills to the governor. It's the same thing, just different terminology. Um, and a couple more things. So a couple more deadlines to talk about. The budget decking is March 16th. This is for the state budget bill. And this is the deadline for the House to submit the budget bill for third reading in the House. Um, the House usually takes the first crack at the bill. House Finance Committee, this is their deadline to submit the budget bill for third reading. Their side, House usually works on it first, then sends it over to the Senate for additional amendments. You can view the budget worksheets on the legislature's website, um, which provides detailed information on the budgetary items that are listed on the proposed budget, and any amendments that are made will be updated on the budget worksheets. The budget crossover is March 18th, the last day for third reading of the budget bill, so you can move over to the other chamber where the Senate Ways and Means Committee will have their chance to amend the budget. Bills proposing constitutional amendments, April 24th. Constitutional amendments are introduced in bill form. They go through the same process, except any proposed amendments must be in their final form, and the language that will be on the ballot must be sent to the governor by April 24th. And if they pass the legislature, which will need a two-thirds vote in each chamber, instead of going to the governor for his signature, they get put on the ballot and we vote on the question. Resolution deadlines, they come a little bit later. Last day to introduce substantive resolutions are March 13th. The first lateral, we talked about what lateral means. First lateral for concurrent resolutions is March 31st for Senate resolutions and April 2nd for House resolutions. First crossover for concurrent resolutions is April 9th. Just the difference between concurrent resolutions and single chamber resolutions. Concurrent resolutions have to move through both chambers in order to be adopted. Whereas single chamber resolutions just stay in their resolutions of or their houses of origin. And then the second crossover for concurrent resolutions is April 27th. And again, that deadline is just for resolutions that have been amended by the non-originating chamber. So if they've been amended, they need to cross back over to their originating chamber by April 27th. Then we get into the governor's deadlines. So if the legislature sends bills to the governor on or before April 14th, which is 10 or more days before the legislature adjourns, the governor has 10 days to sign the bill into law. If he does, the bill becomes law and is given an act number. If he neither signs the bill or vetoes it, the bill becomes law and without the governor's signature and is given an act number. If the governor vetoes the bill, it does not become law, and the legislature can reconsider the bill before the end of session and override the governor's veto by two-thirds vote in each chamber. Bills sent to the governor after April 21st, which is less than 10 days prior to adjournment. If the governor signs the bill by April 15th, which is the 45th day after adjournment, the bill becomes law and is given an act number. If the governor neither signs nor vetoes the bill by July 15th, the bill becomes law without the governor's signature and is given an act number. If the governor intends to veto the bill, he must inform the legislature by June 23rd, which is the 35th day after adjournment, and deliver the veto by July 15th. If the bill is vetoed, it will not become law unless the legislature overrides the veto in special session by two-thirds vote in each chamber. Then the legislature would have to convene in special session at or before noon on July 15th to do that. And this is all listed in the state's constitution. Okay, just real quick, we use the calendar and the conference room schedules to help people figure out whether their bills are in good shape or bad shape. The Senate already has their conference room schedule out. The House does not yet. They may keep the same schedule or they may make their amendments to it. But how to do that is you take a look at the committees that you are tracking, and the calendar, identify your deadline. In this case, the triple referral filing deadline. If your bill um, has three or more referrals, you're keeping track of the first committee. And if that is EEP, like our bill example, your committee meets on Fridays, Tuesdays, and Tuesdays and Thursdays, right? So those are the days your committee meets. And we're going to identify the last day that your um, committee could schedule a hearing and meet the triple referral filing deadline. So because they do not meet on Wednesday, which is the deadline, for example, deadline is Wednesday, the 11th. So they can't meet on the 11th. Their last day to hear it is on the 10th. So that's their last day to hear, and then we know that they have to issue the hearing notice at least 48 hours prior to the hearing. And so the last day for them to issue the hearing notice would be on Friday, February 6th, in order to make that deadline. And so that's the last day the hearing notice can come out. And so you just work backwards to count the number of times the committee can hear the bill. And if you know you're running up against the deadline, then you're going to start wanting to call um, Representative Lowen and ask her to schedule the bill for a hearing, um, because you're getting really close to your bill not being scheduled. And so that's kind of how you work within the calendar and the committee schedule to figure out whether your bill is in bad shape or if your bill is scheduled early, then you're in good shape. Um, for handouts and information, this is our website, lrb.hawaii.gov/par. Our current legislature page is being updated with new information. We just got the name of Representative or now Senator Lamasal's replacement. It's on our current legislature page. So we'll be getting the committee clerk's information soon, and our information for the current legislature um, right now is being updated. So lots of new information on that page. And we also have our new advocates guide under the Learn tab, and something that we've been working on for a couple years, I think 3 or 4 years. We finally got that up. It's um, a two set handout, about 80 pages. The first set is about the legislature and about the process, and the second is about actions and the things that you can do to get involved. We work very hard on it, so hopefully you can take away information that will be helpful to you. And I think that's it. or a couple other handouts. Again, the calendar is listed here. We do have a cheat sheet, which deadlines apply, that will list the deadlines for you based on the referrals that your bill has. It'll tell you exactly when your bill needs to move out of committees based on the number of referrals it has. And we do have handouts that talk about the deadlines, decking, lateral, crossover, those kinds of things. And our social media pages, we don't have our Instagram here because I probably copied this a little bit earlier, but lots of information on our Instagram page and our YouTube channel. So I think that's it for now. I'm gonna stop sharing. Um, let's see. Exit.
There aren't any questions in the chat yet, but feel free to put questions in the chat or just talk. Yeah, it is a lot of information that he just shared. So in the next day or so, maybe well, yeah, should be this week still. We'll get the recording posted and we'll send it out to those that registered by email, but it'll be on our YouTube page in case you want to refer to it again. And like Keanu said, we are happy to answer even the same question over and over again because we know this is a lot.
I have a question and I apologize. I mean, it was a lot for sure. And thank you so much, Keanu, and Andrea for walking us through this calendar and this process. Um, so I guess I just wanted to clarify if a bill is referred to multiple committees, do they have to be endorsed and reported on by all of those committees for them to move forward in this process and cross over to the chamber? To the other chamber, the non-originating chamber?
Yeah, they do. Well, they have to be supported by the committees, voted on, move forward in the order that they're referred. Yeah.
Oh, so they're not all referred at the same time and they don't all come up like the committees will coordinate their hearing schedule then.
Yeah,
Um,
so they move independently. So they referred out, they get the referral sheets at the very begin, like they get the referrals at the very beginning. And then after that, it's up to the committees that it's referred to. But the only committee that is worried about it is the committee that it's referred to first. So the other committees don't care about it. It has to move out of that committee. If it
okay,
gets that out of that committee, then it goes for, the floor vote, and then it gets moved to the next committee. And
okay.
so it moves laterally, but it moves independently of the other committees. So the committees will only worry about it when it's in their committee. Um,
Ah,
yeah.
okay, okay. And
So
they don't necessarily have to do a whole separate report. They could just give it their endorsement, vote on it, and send it to the
yeah,
next.
so they'll create their own report.
Okay,
They'll take a look at the committee report, that everything that comes with it. So it's like a backpack. Um, the best way to put it is like a backpack. You put things in it. The backpack travels with your child, and then when it goes to the next teacher, the teacher looks in the backpack, reads some of the things, and sends it along. So they look at the things that is in. So the bill jacket goes with the bill, and what's
okay.
in that bill jacket is the committee reports and the different drafts of the bill. And so they read through testimony from the other committees. They read through the committee report. They look at the bill draft from the other committee, and they take that into consideration. But they don't have to schedule it for a hearing. They may just leave it in their committee and do nothing to it. It's up to the chair, but they have to continue to push it forward, in order for the bill to move forward.
Ah, okay. And
Yeah.
then the full House and Senate chamber will vote on the whole package of bills that have gone through this
They only
entire.
vote on so they yeah so they only vote on bills that they'll vote on the bills on the floor, and so the committees will, take action on bills, and like I said, they'll file the committee reports and amended drafts with the
Mhm.
clerk's office. The clerk's office will put it onto the order of the day, which is the business agenda for the chamber, and then they'll vote on what's on the business agenda. And then they'll move bills like that. So
Okay.
if the first chair does nothing to it, the bill will never move. So the deadlines apply to the committees that the bill is in.
Mhm.
And so, the committee chair and their staff will work to get the bills out of their committees that they want to move, and maybe do nothing with the bills that they don't. But the bills are independent. The committees are independent. They work independently. They only care about the bills that are in their committee.
Okay, that's understood. But at the very end of this whole process, after it's gone through all of the committees and review and crossed over and whatnot, so is there like a final day when the full House, full Senate will vote on all of the bills that have been approved by all the committees, or does that just happen
Only
throughout
no,
this
they're
process?
only voting. Yeah, no, there's not a final vote because the bills would have gone through the readings, right?
Okay.
There are there's the three votes in the chamber, right?
Mhm.
And then they may vote on a final conference draft at the end, when if the House and Senate like have to agree on one version after it's passed the chamber, after it's passed each chamber, if there's a House draft and a Senate draft, the conference committee would have to work on um a draft that they can both accept, which we call a conference draft. Then that draft would have to go to each chamber independently, and they'd vote on that conference draft, and then that will go up to the governor. So yeah, so
Thank
that's
you.
kind of the wrap. I mean, if that was a wrap up, it would be the conference draft. Yeah.
All right, we've got Amy has a question, and then I have one question in chat to follow up on after Amy goes.
I noticed that sometimes committees will have joint hearings. Who gets to decide which committees have joint hearings and what do they hear?
Who gets to decide?
Yeah,
Who makes the decision for the joint hearings?
yeah.
The leadership is making the decisions, like the for the joint hearings. The Senate and House have a different process. I know that for the Senate they have a referral committee made up of senators. They may take recommendations from. I mean, so I don't know if it's still Senate Majority Staff Office will make recommendations that like a Senate review committee when made up of senators may take a look at and make recommendations to Senate President, or I mean it's and they may take the recommendations or not, and the House may have a different um, way of referring bills. So but ultimately it's done by leadership. Um, but once it's scheduled, like the lead committee will be the one in charge of scheduling. Like, if it's a CPN WAM, then it would be Senator, Kehoe-Kalole's responsibility to work with Senator Dela Cruz to schedule a hearing. Same thing for the House. I mean, for if it's a joint committee in the House, the lead chair will be the ones responsible for scheduling the hearing. So that's kind of how it works. But as far as the joint committee, like who makes the joint committees, that's done by leadership. And like I don't really know the behind the scenes and how they work that out, but I know the House and Senate has different ways of referring bills.
All right, and then the question in chat was regarding the lateral movement of maybe amended bills and reports. The question is, are these updates reports from committee bills moving laterally, then updated as the bill goes on?
The committee reports?
Yeah, I think that I guess I think for the way I'm reading is, are the committee reports updated as the bill moves?
Yeah. Well, they're updated on the status as the bill moves forward, but the committee reports are only up. I mean, new committee reports. I mean, there's new committee reports made or created by the committees, you know.
Each committee has its own committee report.
Yes. Yeah. Each committee can update the bill, and create a new committee report, as it moves laterally, yeah. But the as far as the status, that will be updated as the committee reports are filed. Does that answer the
Thank
question?
you.
Yeah.
I think so. We got a thumbs up on it.
Okay.
Yeah. Any last questions? All right. Thanks to everybody that attended. We'll stay on for another minute or so just in case there is a last question. But like I said, we'll send out an email when the recording's ready. Thanks, everybody. Have a good day.